So I have been going down the Jacobo Grinberg rabbit hole, and today I want to discuss my findings, and I also want to include real life experiences that might relate to his theories. So for those of you who don't know who Jacobo Grinberg is, he was a Mexican neurophysiologist, and he basically studied like shamanism, mysticism, the effects of meditation, what reality is, and mainly consciousness. How does consciousness operate? So I'm going to just share a few of his theories, and then I want to include my own life experiences that kind of just make his theories very realistic, and you might have some aha moments too from what I'm about to share with you. If you do, please share in my comment section because I enjoy talking about stuff like this, and maybe we can come up with theories of our own. So Jacobo came out with this book called the Syntergic Theory, and basically it's a blend of the words synthesis and energy, and you get synergy. So in this Syntergic Theory, he believes that the human brain interacts with a high energy holographic informational matrix. Whoa. This holographic informational matrix he refers to as the lattice.
Like a massive interconnective pattern or structure that forms the very fabric of reality. It's kind of like a cosmic web that holds everything together. According to this mind-blowing theory, the lattice has a direct impact on our perception of time and reality. How? Well, it's all about distortion. When the lattice gets distorted, it can mess with our senses and shape how we perceive the world around us. Think about it this way. Imagine looking at an optical illusion that tricks your brain into seeing something that's not really there. The lattice theory suggests that our perception of reality can be similarly influenced by distortion in this cosmic web. These distortions can happen in various ways. For example, when we experience altered states of consciousness, such as during deep meditation or intense psychedelic trips, the lattice can get all twisted and bent. As a result, our perception of time and reality can become a wild ride.
So let's start there, right? The holographic matrix. Holographs are created through light. So that's basically insinuating here that everything we see is a form of light, which makes a lot of sense. Anything that is physical matter is the densest form of light. Anything higher, the higher it is, the more invisible it becomes. But physical matter is the last stage of light, from what I've been collecting and researching. So I don't believe he's the first one to come up with this theory, but he refers to it as the lattice, and he's the first person to coin this term. So in the lattice, he's basically saying that this is a foundational energy matrix that fills all space, similar to the quantum field. Quantum meaning tiny. So like if we can study the macro, like this RV, but even go like even further into it at a subatomic level, there's nothing, right? And in a way, that would just say that matter is energy, even though we can touch it and feel it. Strange. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it, and I've been trying to grasp this concept for the past 2 years now. So this isn't new to me, but explaining it, yeah. So then we have the neuronal field. And basically he states the brain produces a neuronal field via electrical activity, which interacts with the lattice to create our perceptual reality. So the brain is sending electrical signals to this lattice, this high energetic field, and from that we're able to perceive what we call our reality. And if we go a little deeper than that, we can say every individual is experiencing their own reality. Right? Like, think about that. Like, there's objective reality. Like, I'm sure you guys can both see. I'm right here in front of my RV. And I keep using my RV as an example because there's nothing else right now. But then there's subjective reality. How do we experience our physical reality? And when there's 1.7 billion people living on this earth, you will have 1.7 billion perceptions of subjective reality, which is crazy. You have the pessimist, the optimist, and the neutral one, right? So here goes the term syntergy. This refers to the coherence and complexity of a neuronal field. High syntergy is often associated with meditation or shamanic states, whereas low syntergy produces a personal, fragmented ego reality. So let's just talk about that for a little bit, because I actually have a few examples. With high syntergic states, we're talking about people who have the ability to expand consciousness, right? Because there's levels to consciousness.
So another level. This level is slightly higher, and let's call this the level of the soul, yeah? Well, there will be some mingling here. Let's draw this person as extending to practically infinity this way. Now look what happens. At the physical level, we're separate, and there's this much distance between us. Let's say that on the soul level, this person extends this much, and the other person gets slightly mixed in with him. That is, the souls are in a way in touch with each other. Okay, they overlap, these two lines. Now let's go now to a higher level, and let's call this, say, the level of the higher self, which is kind of a boss of the soul. There, what we find is that this fellow's higher self extends this much, and the other fellow's extends this much. There is more overlap between them. On the very highest level, which is the high spiritual level, everybody is overlapping everybody else. In other words, everything and everyone is everywhere. In other words, we've become omnipresent. This is a state of highly spiritual perfected beings, or gods you may call them.
You can be very limited in your way of thinking, or you can be very open in your way of thinking. People who are usually more open-minded tend to experience more things. And when I say more things, I mean stranger things, versus someone who is dogmatic or political or in a system of belief that kind of misconstrues their perception of reality, aka their consciousness. Do you want to come hang out? It looks like you want to. You can come hang out. Come on. Come on. So Lola is in a low syntergic state because she kind of lives in fear. She doesn't like coming outside because of noises. Okay, all right, I'll let you stay in. Okay, so we're gonna get into low syntergy and high syntergic states. And just for reference, he believed that most people lived in a low syntergic state. I wonder why. So low syntergic states, the characteristics of this is mental chatter. So you're feeding your thoughts. We have thoughts, all right? That's a normal part of the human condition. But to feed into these thoughts is what really makes mental chatter, right? We can either indulge these thoughts or just let them pass. And usually when people let these thoughts pass, they don't feed into them. More times than not, you'll find you are living in the present moment. So we have mental chatter, we have emotional reactivity, we have fear-based thinking, rigid identity and ego attachment, feeling separate from others, living on autopilot, narrow perception, stress and overstimulation, heavy attachment to material validation, and repetitive unconscious patterns. Wow. I would say about 5 years ago, I remember I was all of these things. And I'm not saying that I don't hit low syntergic states. As a matter of fact, people fluctuate between the two, between low syntergy and high syntergy. That's normal. But some people linger in one state or another more, if that makes any sense. So when I say 5 years ago, I was in toxic relationships. I was codependent on people. I did have a lot of anxiety because of my sexuality at the time, and I was a Christian, so there goes that systematic thinking, which contributed to my anxiety because I had a fear of going to hell. That's also rigid identity and ego attachment. In other words, I cared a lot about how others saw me, including my parents, my family. I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I put other people's validation as a priority versus me prioritizing what it is I feel and honoring that. So I can't believe that was about 5 years ago. 6 years ago, 2020. And then I met somebody who put me on to the practice of meditation. And that opened doors. When I say doors, doors to self-discovery. Who is this girl that I'm not aware of? I wasn't aware of how I was. But in hindsight, yeah, I see it. So low syntergic states, people who are heavily conditioned, living in systems, are very absorbed with their 3D reality. People who prioritize external validation. This is a constricted form of consciousness. Consciousness can be constrictive and it can also be expansive. And when you live in a state like this, it tends to be cyclical. You tend to be in a pattern, and most people can't see these patterns that they're living out, whether it's attracting the same kind of partner, constantly being behind on bills or financial struggle, being unhealthy, maybe obese or, underweight. You know what I mean? Like, it's a pattern, and most people don't recognize that because they're limited. And when you throw ego into the mix, that's a blindfold, because the ego protects you. And if somebody calls you out, you're not gonna see it. You're just gonna think you're getting attacked. So with that also comes victimhood mentality. You take everything personal. Another form of this low syntergic state is our phones. You know what? And I've been catching myself a lot lately. My intuition is currently saying I'm very much addicted to this little device. It has a hold on me. I wake up, first thing I'm doing is going on my phone and checking my socials, and it's like, I recognize that. So while I have you guys here, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going cold turkey. Instagram, remove app, delete app. It's saying, are you sure? Yeah, I'm positive. Goodbye. Let's see, TikTok, remove, are you sure? Yes, we're sure. Are you positive? Yes, we're positive. I've been in a loop, and I've noticed it's been affecting not necessarily my attention span, but I've been very foggy with creativity. I love to create, and lately I've just been like, ooh, and then I feel the need to pick up my phone. This is a low syntergic state. Thank you for experiencing this with me. I'm gonna make a video and follow up on how that's going. But I need a nice long break from it. Now, let's move into high syntergic states. And what does that mean exactly? High syntergic states is a very coherent state. Low syntergy is not. It's incoherent. So this is an expanded state of consciousness. So these are the characteristics. We have deep presence, heightened intuition, emotional clarity, sense of unity or interconnectedness, creativity and insight, synchronicity awareness. This one is huge, and I'm going to touch up on it. Reduced ego rigidity. Wow. Expanded perception, feeling aligned, and increased sensitivity to patterns. People often describe this state as lucid, almost dreamlike, because when you're fully present and your mind is very coherent, that's when you start to see the magic of the universe, and I have stories to back that up. People are also not associated with time. People aren't stressing about time. And so I don't know if you guys ever had like a very chill day off on a Saturday, you're not working, and you're just letting the day do its thing, and you're just chilling. You don't have any expectations or deadlines you have to meet. Isn't it interesting how the day just slows down? Time goes so much slower, doesn't it? My whole channel is dedicated to my spiritual journey after leaving Christianity. Not just my spiritual journey, but also my lifestyle, which I want to start incorporating. I have stories where I have had mystical experiences in my meditations. And ever since those experiences I've had, it's like something inside my consciousness. Consciousness is outside, according to Jacobo Grinberg. Something cracked, and I see life completely different. I have many stories of synchronicities to back up my claim. I'm going to share the most recent one that happened. For reference, I would like to say I live every day with the intention of being present. I don't find myself in my head too often, unless something bothers me, but even then, it's not something I truly linger on. Okay, so this was on Friday. This was last week. I go to work, I get out of my car, I see a dime on the seat. Crazy, because I don't carry change in my pocket. So I was sitting on a dime this whole time, don't know where it came from. And because I'm very present and aware, and I feel like my intuition speaks very high, I knew that dime was communicating something to me. And the first thought I had was, more money must be on the way. That was the hunch I had. That was the voice that spoke. But even then I brushed it off. I'm like, or not, because there's that possibility that I was just sitting on a dime, right? One thing I've noticed, I like to give a lot of things meaning. So if I see like a bee or a dragonfly, a ladybug, I usually think to myself, I see them as spiritual messengers. Anyways, fast forward, I get a text from my mom later in the day, and she sends me a picture of an envelope from the United States Treasury, right? And so, hi. And I'm thinking, I don't owe the IRS any money. And the IRS doesn't owe me any money because I already got that. So like, what is this? So then she opens it up and she sends me a picture, and it was a check for a good amount. And it just didn't make any sense to me. But in that moment, I thought back to the dime. And I was like, that's crazy how I said money is on the way. And lo and behold, I was sent a check. Okay? And then immediately after that, I see a ladybug on the floor. It's like my eyes was meant to see it. And then following that ladybug, like 2-3 seconds after, I see the numbers 444 on the floor. That's just one example. But it was like a little story, right? The dime representing the money. The check, the money came. The ladybug to me represents protection, like the universe has my back. And then the 444, which in numerology, 4 represents stability and grounding oneself. So to see that number 4 times, meaning you're good, you got nothing to worry about. That's how I took that. And that's just one story of many. But most people that live in high synergy states experience synchronicities because they have opened their minds to see the synchronicities, and that's the magic that I'm talking about. My most recent video that I made, I take a deeper dive into this, so if you want to check that out, I'll link that up right here, or right here, wherever that goes. So yeah, these are subjective experiences, the low syntergic and high syntergic states. In the high syntergic state, this can be where reality feels very much alive, responsive. You guys ever like said, for my spiritual people or people who believe in like a greater power, you've ever said something or have asked a question and you receive the answer? Like knowing it's not a coincidence. So when you're in a high syntergic state, according to Grinberg, it's believed that these states allow consciousness to interact more directly with the underlying lattice. The higher you are, the more direct communication you have with this field, this energetic field. And that's how reality starts to bend People who are more so like in high syntergic states usually notice less internal noise, greater perceptual sensitivity, meaning you see more, right? Versus constricted perception, right? You're focused on one thing at a time. When you're expanded, you see more. I think that's like, I don't know how else to put that. So repeating numbers, this seems to be I don't want to say fad because it's real, but people do see, like, we call them number frequencies, right? 444, 111, symbolic encounters, intuitive downloads, uncanny coincidences. And here's what I have to say to that, because Jacobo Grinberg also believed in one consciousness, right? That we're all connected. He believed in unity consciousness. And the best way to experience unity consciousness is when you're meditating, when the mind is like quiet and you just feel that. It's a knowing, right? Why do synchronicities happen? As I was reading up on Jacobo Grinberg, reflecting on synchronicities, I'm just thinking to myself, we experience synchronicities because there's only one awareness. And this awareness operates through anything because we're all connected to this one awareness. So let's say you're trying to get a job and it's a dream job and you have your goal of how much you want to make. This one awareness that's operating through you is going to operate through other people to bring you what it is that you want. So that can look like somebody emailing you from a job you applied to and then them offering you the amount that you were hoping for, or desired rather, because hope, we're not getting anywhere with hope. Or when you think about somebody and then they just shoot you a text, it's because this is just one awareness. This one awareness is connected to everything. And that's why these synchronicities, I don't know why I did a quote. That's why these synchronicities make a lot more sense. There's only one awareness. So I no longer look at life's weird coincidences as coincidences. I see it as all purposeful and meaningful, and life is a lot more fun that way, in my opinion. Like, if I can see the meaning in life and make a story out of it, it's just that much more magical. Of course, too much of something isn't good for you, so the shadow side to a high syntergic state is trying to find the meaning in every single thing, like I just said that I do, which is something that I'm working on. And being detached from practical reality, right? Like, everything is magical to you, and so you won't be able to relate to others that well, and they might look at you like you're a little crazy because maybe this doesn't really have meaning, and maybe this is just what it is. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think everything has a meaning? Is there a purpose behind everything? I believe everything serves a purpose. I don't believe anything was created to not have a purpose. And that includes the cosmos, that includes ants, and unfortunately cockroaches. You know what I mean? So, like, it's just finding meaning in little things, but of course be careful and don't overdo it. Too much of anything isn't good. But yeah, I can go on and on about Jacobo Grinberg's theories, but I think I really just wanted to touch up on low syntergy and high syntergy. And I want to hear your thoughts and your experiences if you guys have ever, experienced synchronicities or something just uncanny and crazy that never made sense to you. I don't know, just comment down below. And yeah, the real mystery is, where did this guy go? I just started doing my research on him. He disappeared in 1994. There's a lot of conspiracies online, like, oh, maybe he meditated himself into a whole different realm. Like, I don't know. Hopefully it was nothing tragic, but it's just a little weird that he disappeared at the height of his career, right? All this information on consciousness, and it even made it into the CIA documents, right? They use that stuff to experiment and see how consciousness can affect reality. I mean, this stuff is real, guys. But yeah, I'm gonna continue looking more into him, and I'll probably make some more videos on his theories. If you guys are still here, thank you so much for sticking around. And if you enjoyed this content, I have so much more on my channel. Just subscribe, and I upload when I upload. I don't have a schedule. When I feel inspired to talk, I talk. So yeah, till next time. Thank you.